In 2013, 2,163 teens in the United States were killed due to reckless driving. That means that 6 teenagers, ages 16 through 19, died every day. My name is Loryn Rogers, and this is my senior project. Throughout this presentation, I will go over my purpose and goals, the steps it took to complete my project, my resources, the lessons learned, and my special thanks. Being a senior, you're told you have to do a senior project. When choosing a senior project, you need to be sure it's something you're interested in, or else you're not going to complete it. But if you asked me in the beginning of the year why I did my senior project, I would tell you that I did it to graduate, or to get out of doing smaller projects, or to make my moms happy, who just so happened to be in the front row, and to get Miss T off my back, because she's a crone. But if you asked me now, I would tell you that I did it to help the students learn that accidents do happen, and to prepare them for the ugly reality of how fast your life can change if you choose not to be safe. I would also tell you that I did it to tell you that every 15 minutes, someone in the United States dies due to reckless driving. Every project comes with a goal. My goal was that EKA students would learn to be safer drivers on the road and to prevent unnecessary accidents on the road. But in order to complete my goals, I needed to have a plan, or steps rather. I decided to run circle discussions with all high school advisories and watch an actual every 15 minutes at Green Valley High School. I also decided to bring in a guest speaker to talk to the students and put together a mini advisory project for 2 of the advisories. And lastly, I decided to host a mini every 15 minutes. Running circles, you need to have an idea on how you're going to run them. So my first circle discussion, I introduced the story of Martin Courtney. Martin Courtney is Miss Cottle, which just so happens to be one of our teachers here at EKA, is Miss Cottle's brother. Miss Cottle sadly lost her brother due to a drinking and driving accident. This is the story that I shared with my first advisory that I practiced on for my circle discussion. If you wouldn't mind, I'm going to read it to you now. Martin Courtney was the second oldest out of 10 children. He was a family man, a friend, and an off-road enthusiast with a spot as president in an organization called SNOR, also known as Southern Nevada of Off-Road Racing. In 1973, Martin graduated from Gorman High School, lettering in football and receiving participation in his school student council. Following high school, he decided to pursue a career in teaching special education. He later graduated from UNLV but never taught a class. He soon realized he wanted to be an electrician, opening his first business called Sure Electric with his best friend, Boston Corey. With his business running well, Martin then decided to teach 4 out of 5 of his brothers how to also become electricians. Things quickly changed in the blink of an eye. On August 2nd, 1986, Martin and Corey and one of their employees, Barry, were involved in a 1-car accident at 11 p.m. in Kingman, Arizona. Martin and Corey both were alive when 911 arrived, but sadly were pronounced dead once they reached the hospital. Barry, the 18-year-old driver, received minor injuries and was sent to the hospital. When investigators arrived, they found the driver was not only going over the speed limit, but none of the passengers were wearing seatbelts. They also found empty bottles of whiskey, beer, and Jack Daniels. In 1986, there were no open container laws, so Barry never had to go to prison for vehicular manslaughter. Although Barry did suffer depression, and sadly, 7 years later, he took his own life. As for Martin and Corey, they both left behind wife and kids. Martin's oldest son, Eric, will now be 33 and has chosen to pursue a career as a firefighter paramedic. Martin's family now wishes to just help others and think about their decisions before acting on them. After sharing the story with the advisory, I could see that they were on the verge of grasping the concept that I was trying to get across. So following the story, I had the students create posters talking on topics like drinking and driving and seatbelt safety. When it was all said and done, I hadn't reached the students on the level that I had wanted. So I tried a different approach. I introduced the I Killed a Man video. The video consisted of a man confessing of a crime of hitting and killing another person. He goes on to say how his attorney said that they could get him off by getting rid of his blood test. At the end of it, he also says that he's going to plead guilty and take full responsibility for everything that he's done. That was the whole point of the video, for him to get it off of his chest and apologize to the family. He was taking full responsibility. After the video, I gave them a video questionnaire that I had made to try to form a discussion from them. When I gave them the questionnaire, I actually reached them on the level that I was hoping. I sparked a discussion. I could see that they were actually interested in the topic. So I was really happy to see that that went well. The thing I found most exciting was the very last question. The last question was, how long does Matthew deserve to be in prison? That sparked the most discussion because everybody had different answers. Everybody said 6 or 9 or 8 or 2 with probation or 2 with rehab. They were all over the place. And the thing that I also found interesting was that out of all the students that I talked to, only one person got the correct amount of time he was in prison, right? Which just so happens to be 6. While continuing to do circle discussions throughout the year, I also went to view an every 15 minutes at Green Valley High School. In order to get a sense of what an every 15 minutes really was, I just wanted to see it in person. I had watched videos online all the time. I watched it all summer because I knew this was going to be my project. And I just wanted to see it in person so that I could really, 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 really see what it was. But wait. What is an every 15 minutes, you may ask? Let me tell you. Every 15 minutes, someone in the United States dies from an alcohol-related accident. But as you know, I already told you that. This program is a 2-day program showing a realistic car accident and the events that follow after with it. So they show a car accident scene, and then show the police coming up, and they show the ambulance arriving, and in some of them, you'll see air helicopters coming down, and you see them taking them away, and you see actual things happening. And then you see a coroner truck drive up and pick up a dead body, but it's not dead because that would be bad. It was a fake person. No, it was not a fake person, I lied. It was a real person, and it was students that were participating from the school. So it was really something cool to see. Now, in order to do anything every 15 minutes related, I had to speak to the person in charge. Speaking to the person in charge put me in contact with this man right here. His name is Officer Adams. He was in charge of everything. He was in charge of the whole every 15 minutes. He was in charge of if I got to see it or if I got to even say the word every 15 minutes. So, after contacting Officer Adams, he was so nice and graciously let myself and Mrs. Kyer go view an every 15 minutes at Green Valley High School. Here are a couple pictures from my time at Green Valley High School. The first one with I'll walk to you. Okay. So as you can see here, sorry, I got a little loud. As you can see here, this is the casket that was at Green Valley, and this was the person who hit this lady who was on the scene of the roof, the hood. And then this is Joshua, and I will get back to who Joshua is in a second. I feel awkward drinking in front of you. Oh. I'm sorry. I had decided that having a guest speaker come and speak to the secondary students here at EKA would help further the knowledge of the secondary students. So to do this, I reached out to MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. When I reached out to MAD, they sent me Kathleen. Miss Kathleen is the lady you see in this picture. Miss Kathleen came and spoke to the secondary students at an assembly that I held, and she spoke to the students about the importance of being safe on the road and the importance of not drinking and driving. As you can see, that is me speaking on the microphone as I am now. And the other two pictures are the students actually watching the assembly and viewing it. I think those are two of the best pictures that I've ever taken for my project. Not the one of me, the one of the students. For my project, so. Okay. I thought that I still wanted to inform the students even further. I felt that I acknowledged them, but I wanted to give them further knowledge. I wanted them to know more than even I knew. So, to do that, I typed up a lesson plan. This lesson plan was for the mini project that I held for Ms. T's and Ms. McIver's advisory. I told the students to make a PSA. For those of you who do not know what a PSA is a public service announcement, which is basically like a commercial. I included websites for the students to use, as you can see at the top of the paper. For their assigned topic, I wanted them to get facts and be knowledged. That's not a thing. And get knowledged. That's still not a thing. So I wanted them to get facts. So I gave them websites. So after I gave them websites, I expected them to do my project. But you can't do a project without a rubric. So I gave them a rubric, and I graded them later on from 4 being yes and being the best, and 1 being you could improve and do better. The following video is from one of the groups that were participating in my mini project. Their assigned topic was drugged driving. As you can see, they really had fun making the video, and I really enjoyed watching them make the video, and I'm happy that they asked me to be a part of the video because they are just a hoot. They're so much fun. And when they did the video, I'm really happy that throughout everything, they learned something. It wasn't just another project or just to get out of doing actual advisory projects. They actually learned something while completing my project. Lastly, I hosted my very own every 15 minutes. But in order to host something, a lot of planning goes into it. In order to have it every 15 minutes, you need to have victims. In order to have victims, you need a victim participation slip. Because you can't just kill people without parent permission. So, that was funny, right? Okay. Correct myself up. Okay. I needed to type up a participation slip with all the information that they would need. I needed to make sure I had every little detail in there so that the parents weren't left out of anything that I was going to do. After all, I'm killing their child, so they need to know everything that I'm doing. So once I typed it up, I gave it to the 7 participating students, and they gave it to their parents, and they all thankfully gave it back to me. Once their parents agreed to let their students participate, I needed them to fill out an obituary card. The obituary card had anything from your favorite color to your relatives to your best friend's name, whatever I thought I needed to put together an obituary. I didn't want the parents to have to write their students' obituaries because, again, it's not their actual death, so I didn't want them to go through that emotional experience. So I thought that if they gave me the information, I could write it for them and save them a lot of tears because they were going to cry later. Once I did, it brought me to typing their finished obituaries. I wanted to make it as realistic as possible, so I made sure to capture the essence of their life within that small little paragraph. Because I tried my best to make it as realistic as possible, I needed an opt-out form. I needed the opt-out form for the students who were going to watch my assembly. The students who were watching my assembly needed to let their parents know that my event was happening, I'm killing people, can I watch it, yes or no? That's what they need, that's what the slip was for. So luckily, nobody gave me the slip. Everybody got to watch it. The opt-out form was very vital to my project, and I was really happy that Miss Matson gave me the idea of it and told me how to put it together, so I'm very thankful for her for that. I also wanted to be sure that after the assemblies, that the advisories that were watching my assembly still had it in their mind. I wanted them to still think about what they just saw and about what they just experienced. So I typed up a quick circle discussion. I wanted to give them different topics and different ideas of what they could talk about after they watched my assembly, because I just wanted to stick in their head. And I gave it to the advisors, and it was up to them if they chose to watch it, if they chose to read it and discuss it. And I was informed that Mr. Gromlick's advisory actually went back to class and watched every 15-minute videos. So that made me really happy. I felt I had the major things done and that I was ready. The day came and I felt like I ate I wasn't. The day came and I felt like I ate like socks for breakfast, and I was really nervous and I was going to throw up, and I just wasn't ready. The assembly began and I started showing the students an Emmy-winning every 15 minutes video. Didn't know that they did Emmys for those, did you? Neither did I, but that's something I learned. So I showed them an Emmy-winning every 15 minutes video. Following that, I had the students from the audience participate in an obstacle course wearing intoxication simulation goggles. You don't know what those are? Let me tell you. Intoxication simulation goggles. The actual name is beer goggles, but I have to say intoxication simulation. So, these intoxication simulation goggles, they give you the sense and the feel of being drunk, but not being drunk because you didn't drink. So they give you the sense of being drunk, but you're not really drunk. So when you wear them, you and you fall. And I had two goggles, and they were two different amounts of liquor within them. That doesn't make sense, but that's how to describe it. So I was so lucky and I was allowed to borrow them thanks to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. So thank you. The students wearing the goggles, it gave them a chance to see how hard it was to actually maneuver around the cones and actually do something while being in that state of mind without actually physically being drunk, because I can't kill people and get people drunk at school. After that, I had informed the students of the loss of the 7 victims. As I read the obituaries, I had the students come up one by one and get their T-shirts, as you can see here in this picture. Once I was done, the audience was released, and the victims came with me to write their goodbye letters to their parents. The next day, the students were told not to talk, just to give the illusion that they were really gone from the school. I had previously killed them the next day, so I didn't want them to come to school and talk and act like it was just another day at school. I wanted them to actually feel like they were gone. And the student body actually took to it and actually acted like they were not here. And I had the students, the 7 victims, sit up front during lunchtime and eat away from everybody. So there was not one chance that they were actually here. This is a picture of the 7 students who participated. This is the front of their T-shirts that we made, and then this is the back of their T-shirts that has RIP and their name, their chosen name that they wanted on the back of their shirts. The back of their shirts is supposed to symbolize like a tombstone, but I didn't want to actually get tombstones. Once the funeral started, I had made sure that everyone had a memorial pamphlet like the one that you would see at a real funeral. I wanted them to really get the sense of it being an actual funeral, without it being an actual funeral. Following that, once everyone was settled and the funeral began, the students, the 7 victims, walked in with a casket.
I was lucky to have a casket there because it really gave the sense of
I
a
was
real
lucky
funeral,
to have a
which is
casket there
again what
because
I
it really
wanted. I
gave the
wanted the
sense
sense
of
of
a
a
real
real funeral.
funeral, which is
At
again what I
first, I was
wanted. I
having the
wanted the sense of
toughest
a real
time finding
funeral.
a casket,
At
and I
first, I was
told Miss
having the
T that I'm
toughest
just gonna
time
make a
finding
cardboard
a
one, but she
casket, and
said
I
no.
told Miss T that I'm
I
just going to
told
make
her
a
that
cardboard
I
one,
couldn't
but she
find one,
said
and then
no.
she said call
I
Paul
told her that
Palm
I couldn't find one, and then she said
Mortuary
call
and ask them. So then I did,
Palm
and they were so
Mortuary
nice and
and
they let me
ask them.
borrow one.
So then I did, and they were so
After that, I
nice and
had
they
the
let me
parents
borrow
of the
one.
victims put flowers inside the
After that, I
casket
had
to
the parents of the
symbolize their
victims put
remorse and their
flowers
missing
inside
of
the
their child.
casket to
That was a
symbolize
very
their
emotional
remorse and
part
their
for
missing of their
the
child.
parents
That
because
was a very
no
emotional
one
part
wants
for
to see
the
their child
parents
go
because
before they do.
no one wants to see their child go before they do.
I thought that since it was supposed to be in every 15 minutes, I should try
I
to do
thought that
some
since it was
things
supposed
that
to
you
be
would
in
see at an
every
actual
15
every 15
minutes, I should
minutes.
try to do some
That being
things that
said,
you would
I
see at an
contacted
actual every
Vicky
15
Johnson, who was
minutes.
so
That
kind
being
to come
said, I
speak at
contacted
EKA.
Vicky Johnson, who was
As you can see,
so
this is
kind to
Vicky
come speak
Johnson.
at EKA.
Vicky
As you
came
can
and
see,
talked to
this is Vicky
students about her
Johnson.
son Joshua.
Vicky
She
came
lost
and
her
talked
son
to the students
Joshua
about her
due
son
to a drinking
Joshua.
and driving
She lost her
motorcycle
son
accident,
Joshua
and when she
due
shared
to
her
a drinking and
story,
driving
I
motorcycle
think she
accident.
touched
And when she
everybody
shared
on
her
an emotional
story,
level
I
just
think
because
she
of
touched
her
everybody
strength
on an
that she goes
emotional
through every
level
day
just
and
because of her
how
strength
strong
that
she
she goes
must
through
be
every
to come
day
speak to
and
students like us
how
and share
strong she
her
must
story
be to come
and
speak to
do it
students like us and
repeatedly.
share her story and do it
At the end
repeatedly.
of the funeral, the students had a chance to reconvene with everybody,
At the end of the
including
funeral,
the
the students had a
participating
chance to
students and their
reconvene with
parents.
everybody,
The
including
students
the
had a chance to
participating
look into
students
the
and their
casket where I
parents.
had placed a
The
mirror
students had a
so
chance
that
to
the
look into
students
the
could see their
casket where I
future
had
if they
placed
chose
a
to drive
mirror
recklessly.
so that the
I
students could see
really
their
wanted to
future
get
if
my
they chose
message
to drive
across about how
recklessly.
dangerous,
I really wanted to get my
how
message
dangerous it
across
is
about
if you
how
don't drive without a seatbelt,
how
or if you drink
dangerous
and
it is
drive,
if
if you
you
text and drive.
don't
There's
drive
just
without
so
a
many different
seatbelt, or if you drink and
possibilities. So I
drive, or
just
if you
wanted
text
them
and
to
drive. There's
really
just so
get a
many
sense
different
of how
possibilities.
dangerous
So
it
I just
was.
wanted them to really get a sense of how dangerous it was.
But in order to do all of the things that I did, I needed
But
help
in
from
order to do
from
all of the
outside
things
people.
that I did, I
People like
needed
that
help
would
from
include Officer
outside
Adams,
people.
Officer
People
Jeremy,
like
who
that
gave
would
me the
include
goggles,
Officer Adams, Officer Jeremy, who
the
gave me
Mothers
the
Against Driving
goggles,
representative, Miss Kathleen, who
the
came and
Mothers
spoke,
Against Driving representative,
Palm
Miss
Mortuary, who
Kathleen,
gave me
who
the
came and
casket,
spoke,
Smith's
Palm
Floral
Mortuary,
Arrangements
who
for
gave me
giving
the
me
casket,
flowers for the
Smith's
victims,
Floral Arrangements
Vicky
for giving
Johnson,
me
who came and
flowers for
spoke
the
to the
victims,
students, and Royal
Vicky
T-shirt
Johnson, who
designs,
came
who
and
helped
spoke
with the
to the
T-shirts for the
students, and
victims.
Royal T-shirt Designs, who helped with the T-shirts for the victims.
Throughout this project, I've learned a few things. I learned
Throughout
that
this
your
project, I've
advisor
learned a
is
few
your best
things.
friend, even
I
though I
learned that
will
your
never admit
advisor is your best
it.
friend,
I
even though I
also
will
learned
never
to
admit
do
it.
things when they need to be done.
I also learned to do
Doing a
things when
senior
they need to
project,
be
you have a
done.
senior binder. With the senior
Doing
binder,
a senior
there's a
project, you have a
bunch of
senior
other stuff
binder.
that you have
With the
to
senior
do,
binder
like
comes
journals.
a bunch of
I
other
did not
stuff
do
that
those
you
on a
have to
daily.
do,
I
like
did them
journals.
the week
I
before they
did
were
not
due.
do those on a daily. I did them the week before they were due. Lastly, I
Again, it's
learned
a big
not to be
project. You
afraid
want
to
to do
reach
it all
out
by
to other
yourself.
people.
You want to be
Again,
able
it's a
to
big
ask Miss
project. You
T
don't
or
want to do
ask
it
my
all by
mom
yourself.
or
You
all
want to
three
be
of
able
them.
to ask Miss T or
Or
ask
ask
my
any
mom
friends that you
or
feel like
all
they
three of
can
them,
help you. Don't do it by
or ask
yourself.
any friends that you feel like they can
That being
help you.
said,
Don't do it by
I would
yourself.
like to thank Miss
That being
McIver,
said,
Miss Lori,
I would like to thank
Miss Hope,
Miss
Miss Matson, and
McIver,
Mr.
Miss
Bolton.
Lori, Miss Hope, Miss
I
Matson,
would
and
also
Mr.
like to
Bolton.
thank Miss Carrie, Miss Caudle
I would
for
also
sharing her
like to
story with
thank
so many
Miss
students,
Carrie, Miss Caudle
Miss
for sharing
Rita,
her story
Mr.
with so
Quinn,
many
and Mr.
students,
Jesus.
Miss Rita, Mr.
So if you could
Quinn,
give them a
and
round of
Mr.
applause, that would
Jesus.
be nice.
So if you could give them a round of applause, that would be nice.
I would also like to thank the entire senior class,
I would also like to
the
thank the
participating victims
entire
and their
senior
families. So
class,
if I could have the
the
participating
participating
victims please
victims
stand
and their
up.
families. So if I could have the participating victims please stand up.
If you could give them a round of applause, that would be great.
If you could give them a round of applause, that would be nice.
I asked them to wear their shirts today, so I'm really happy that they listened.
I asked them to wear their shirts today, so I'm really
I would
happy
also
that they
like to
listened
thank
to
the
me.
entire secondary student body.
I would also like to
yourselves, so
thank
thank
the
you for
entire
listening to
secondary
my
student body,
presentations, my
yourself, so
assemblies,
thank you for
my
listening to
presentation
my
now, so thank you.
presentations, my
And I would also
assemblies,
like to thank
my
all
presentation
secondary
now,
and
so thank
elementary
you.
advisors.
And I would also like to thank all secondary and elementary advisors. So if you could give them and yourself a round of applause.
I would also like to give a shout out to my best friend Andrea.
I would also like to give a shout out to my best friend Andrea. I want to thank her for keeping me on track and helping me when I'm like in the bathroom crying my eyes out because I think my project's going terrible, but it wasn't because she like helped me. So without her, I would probably still be in the bathroom crying. And last, but most definitely not least, I would like to thank my advisor. Her name is also Cantankerous Crone. Yes, she is a Cantankerous Crone. But without her, is it Gall personality, my project would not have gone so well because she helped me with all the papers that I wrote, with all the speeches that I had to write, and she fixed all my typos with there and your and him and we and her. I messed up a lot of things, but it was mainly on purpose because she's an English teacher. So without her, my project would not have gone as good. So I'm really happy that she was there. Okay, so when you leave here, all that I ask is that you keep in mind the 2,163 teens that had to die a year in order for us as a generation to realize just how important being safe on the road is. Thank you.